But I also want to say something else about this, because I'm talked about in relation to California wines. I feel like they sort of betrayed me in a way.
Okay.
I was raised on California wines, and I still have great memories of them. I can remember a '69 Mondavi Cabernet Sauvignon that I thought could compete with any vintage of Lafite or Margaux. It reminded me of Lafite and Margaux because of the finesse of it. And then around 1975, towards 1980, it seemed to me that they started, the new oak craze came along. Before that, California wines were not oaky.
No.
So that was something new. The customers reacted. They liked that taste of oak. I really didn't. It's not a taste that I like.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't want my wine oaked. I do. I don't.
You just don't like when
I don't want my wine in stainless steel.
You're talking to a guy who created a character called the Oak Monster. So I am very much in line with you. I am thrilled and believe that, you know, it's like makeup. You know, it just takes away so much from what I'm trying to look for. So you're going to get no complaints here whatsoever.
And the other trend that put me off, and it's putting me off today too, in places like Chateauneuf and some of the...
Are you worried about what's going on in Chateauneuf?
Well, the alcohol levels. I mean, it's the same thing. We never used to see Chateauneufs at 17.5 degrees.
I mean, it's getting really crazy.
And now we're seeing something.
You know, of the places you love, I mean, and I'm worried that Chateauneuf is such a bell to the region that you could start seeing things happening in Gigondas and Baccarat. I tasted some 07s from some of these I had a Lirac that, you know, double blind. If somebody said California wine, I'd be like, yep, I understand. I mean, you know, Rhone has been a place that you've been a fan of for a long time. What's happened over the last 60 months in the Rhone Valley is staggering, I think, from, you know, even, are you concerned about where the Rhone Valley is going?
Well, a wine that has 17.5 degrees alcohol to me tastes like cough syrup. The alcohol dominates.
Sure.
You know, it's not a good smell.
So just all in all, I mean, are you seeing this become more of a common theme there?
I am. I mean, it's combined with two things.
Have you been talking to your supplier?
All the time. It's combined with two things. The growers of Châteauneuf-du-Pape are convinced that American journalists will rate their wine higher if it has higher alcohol.
Yep.
That's a belief shared by
almost all of them.
Almost everybody. And the other thing is this global warming with the vineyards. I mean,
it's just warmer.
It is astonishing, and they keep saying, oh, well, we measured for sugar 3 nights later, it's gone through the roof. I keep hearing that, where they're blaming nature.
And there's also style, right? I mean, you have consultants in the region.
I think it's a combination of the two.
Well, how about Combi, right? I mean, he's walking around doing a lot of projects, and his style is very big. And so you see this influence. We saw it in Australia with Dan Phillips.
Right.
We saw it in Spain with Jorge Ordóñez. And, you know, it's not for me to judge, but Philippe Combi is walking around and doing 30 projects, 20 I mean, an enormous amount of projects.
Is he an enologist?
Yes, and he's doing quite a bit of these big, and that's great. I mean, you know, there's people that love the style, but you know, when you get momentum with some of these,
it's very commercial.
It's become very commercial.
Right.
Has that made you? Are you in a place in your career right now where you're passionate about maybe looking at different parts of France and Italy because you feel they've been not untarnished, but maybe are still in a place where they could be a little bit more old world or not looking at the new practices, or are you staying in the same places?
I don't approach it like that. I think that one of the things about French and Italian wine both that I like, if you want a light wine, they make one. If you want to drink it with oysters, you've got a Muscadet or a Chablis. If you're going to have a big...
By the way, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Muscadet, I agree completely. I really personally feel that the Chablis oyster thing is one of the great jobs marketing-wise by Chablis ever. I mean, you know, I love Chablis, and they're definitely the minerality, and I'm all in on Chablis. But boy, oh boy,
there's an ancient poem in France. Chablis and oysters made a monk leave his cloisters.
And so it's been around for a while.
Since the 12th century.
All right. I still feel like there's other alternatives to the whole. You know, if I hear one more person say, "Let's do some Raveneau and oysters," I'm like, there's other wines out there besides Chablis. But fair enough. I mean, if it's going back that far, it's tough to.
Well, the two classics are Muscadet and
yeah,
Chablis.
absolutely.
You know, I mean, but there are plenty of others.
What's the last domain that you brought into your stable? What's the last? When was the most recent brand that you brought on board?
I think we've got one here. This is it
Which
Pouligny?
This guy right here.
Yeah.
And is this when did you start working with? Who is this?
It's Domaine de Charassé, and he's in Blagny, which is a village. It's a few houses between Pouligny and Meursault.
Yep.
Way up on the hill, and all his vineyards are up there. So you're looking down. You're looking down from his vineyards at Perrières over here, and way over there is Le Montrachet, and so you're above those.
All of them.
Those great
classic, iconic vineyards.
And where he is, it's more like it's higher altitude. It's really stony. Of course, a lot of.
Is this the first vintage you're working with him?
No. I started with 2004. A few cases.
So you have not added a new domain in 5 vintages.
Oh my goodness, no, I have. I just thought I'd mention this one because
it's here. So
because we have.
But I guess what I'm getting at, innuendoing towards, you're still actively, if you find an Alsatian producer, or some, you'll bring them on board. Okay, let's get into the wine.
That's how I've grown. I haven't grown by going to bigger and bigger wineries. I've grown by adding more domains.
Do you find it a challenge to juggle so many domains?
Oh yeah, I do, but it's not what I think of. It's like the most fun for me is discovering a new domain. That's still the excitement is there. Yeah.
The hunting, huh? The treasure hunting is still the game.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, I mean that's the game, right? Do you like garage sailing?
Who? Garage
sailing?
I don't know what it is.
When you go into people's houses for a garage sale. That's my hunting.
No,
I love flea markets.
I've never gone to one.
Never?
Never.
Seriously? Not even in Berkeley in the late 60s?
No, but going under somebody's house into their cellar where there's a bunch of barrels, yeah, I'll be there.
All right, let's go to the first wine here. The Côte de Rhône, blended by Kermit Lynch. So this is the Kermit Lynch Sunflower Cuvée. I've never seen that reference before. Is that something you're doing that's new, or has it always been the Sunflower Cuvée? Or is that every year you're changing it?
This is only the second year that this exists. But for years I've done blends where I put my own label on
that. I've been buying and know, and I'm very familiar with it. I just never saw the Sunflower play before. By the way, this is a blend of 40% Marsanne, 40% Roussanne, and 20% Viognier. $20 suggested retail. Côte de Rhône Blanc. Talked about it quite a bit on this show. I think the white varietals from the Rhone Valley still to this day are unheralded. I think they're completely underrated. I think from a food standpoint, there's a lot of things that they bring to the table that Chardonnay doesn't. I'm a very big fan of this. I did a Lirac Blanc the other day that I completely flipped out for. Nobody's drinking Lirac Blanc. Tell me about your stance on this varietal.
The Southern Rhones and the whites from Provence too, and Languedoc, all along the Mediterranean rim where you've really got high temperatures. It's a problem because it's a little bit like California. The whites won't have acidity.
They get gloppy.
Yeah, thick. And so the answer of the enologist has been to block the second fermentation. Wine does too. It does transform the sugar into alcohol. But then there's another one it does that it wants to do, and that is a malolactic fermentation. And that eats up acidity, malic acid. Now in Burgundy,
which was a huge craze for Chardonnay in California in the late 90s, early 90s.
That's right. In Burgundy, white Burgundies, for example, they do their malolactic fermentation. But down south, there's so little acidity in them.
They can't pull it off.
They all block it, hoping to guard a little of this malic acid. And I find it really an acid hard to digest. And that's kept me from importing a lot of southern white wines because of that malic acid. It's very sharp. It's not like the acid in a Meursault Perrières,
Right.
it's lively. It's not
Burning.
pointed, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
Prickly.
been my problem with those southern white wines.
So where are you getting these grapes from? Different places,
This,
each vintage?
this
or
particular
yeah.
label and the red version, I call it the Cypress Cuvée, are both from Chateau Saint-Côme in Gigondas.
Yeah, no, well.
He has a négociant label, so he can buy grapes or he can buy juice. And then I go visit him and we blend together and come up with...
How long? Usually a day or two of blending? Or how long do you usually
It
take?
depends. Sometimes it's done in one visit. Sometimes with a problem vintage... I remember one vintage, some acidity was causing problems, so I visited him once, and he likes. I live about an hour and a half from him. I live near Bandol. He likes the water, so two times he came to visit me
to hang out,
to retaste, to reblend. So it can be a
take some time.
one day visit or see a wine again and again.
The thing that attracts me to these wines more than anything, hands down, are the aromatics. I think aromatically these wines are so fascinating, and I can get lost in just sniffing these wines all day long. Kermit.
Now this wine, this did its malolactic. So just a little wine education for your
they'll love it. The Vaynerchuks.
viewers.
Call them Vaynerchuks.
When you block the malolactic, because remember the wine wants to do its malolactic, you've got to stop it. So the way you stop it is a sterile filtration and a lot of SO2.
A lot.
Now I hate filtration. That doesn't mean everything I import is unfiltered, by the way, but I'd rather a wine were unfiltered. And SO2, you get too much, and you can't smell the wine.
It blocks
I think that's
completely.
another reason it's a bad idea to block the mallow. So when I stick my nose in this glass, that's one of the things I notice is one, no SO2 smell,
right?
And also this nose has depth, where if you've got a wine like a white or a rosé, where the mallow is blocked. You don't have any depth.
It's a one-layer play.
Yeah, it's a one-layer play.
Absolutely.
Well put.
Thank you.
Where this, you go down into the wine, you know?
Yeah, no question.
Stuff
I mean, the white flowers and the honeydew, and there's a spiciness even on the nose that I love so much.
It's my first one today.
Let me ask you a question about temperature. This is chilled.
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge advocate of white wine at room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you on the room temperature, chilled, white? Do you care? Is it a big deal to you, one way or the other?
I think you can go too far. I mean, what temperature is your room?
Right. That's a very valid point. No, but I mean, are you...
So I would say cool is good for reds and whites.
Okay.
Cold doesn't work for either. But warm, you're going to start smelling the alcohol too much.
Which is something I bring up all the time.
Even if the alcohol is reasonable, you start smelling it in a warm wine.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I play it.
Do you drink white wines at room temperature?
No, I pull them right out of my cellar. And I keep the cellar at about 58 degrees. So, not icy, but cold enough to drink.
So the first thing I notice on this wine is the mouthfeel. It has an enormous ability to just really coat the palate completely. Yeah. Very clean, very clean. Great floral flavors. I can't get over this whole dandelion, white flower, acacia flower type flavors. And really kind of a nice kind of pear, apple, fresh fruit flavor. Almost even a little bit of star fruit. I don't know how many of you guys are eating star fruit out there these days, but I get a little bit of that kind of, it's almost like, you know, an acid kind of sharpness that I like, but the acidity is really well, balance is probably the thing I come across feeling more about this wine than anything.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts about this wine? If you said you hate it,
when I taste and when I look for wines, balance is one of the most important things. I'm not much for, when I'm buying, I'm not much for looking for the aromas you're talking about, because I've found that aromas in a wine are quite transitory. And if you can talk to somebody and say, hey, take this wine, you're going to love it because it's got this raspberry aroma, a month or two later,
it may not.
It may not.
No question.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Don't you
true.
agree?
At 1,000%.
So you're talking about something that, and then
an hour later.
And then
forget about a day.
I worry a lot now. Maybe.
Go ahead.
In fact, this might be a good question for
Please.
people. I find that these critics who will list 10 or 12 perfumes, you know, it's the
Violet,
it's
licorice,
lime skin,
right?
but the interior of the lime skin, and it's coffee, Colombian,
right?
And you know,
yeah,
all that I fear
is
really
gibberish.
off. There's that, but also off-putting, because I don't taste that way when I taste.
So what,
I taste more.
Let's make it real life. How do you describe this wine? You just tasted it. Break it down.
I would start with just that. It's a wine that you immediately aromatically get below the surface, and I like that. Mm-hmm. And there's no dominant perfume to it. I don't think of a dominant perfume. Mm-hmm. If I had to think of what strikes me today, it's fairly honey-like. Mm-hmm. But that's not what I think when I taste. I just don't taste that way. Sometimes it's so striking that I can't help but say, "Well, that reminds me of strawberry."
How do you analyze? How about music? How do you analyze music? Similar to the way you analyze wine?
Well, my music is rootsy. So I do roots wine, I do roots music.
That's awesome. Very good. I think, let me ask you another question. You do a lot in France. Do you feel, you know what the price point of this is, do you feel these wines are underpriced? Do you think there's much value to be had in the Rhone varietals, especially on the white side right now?
I don't think it's just Rhone varietals. I think the prices of French wines are... It's kind of loony how low they are these days.
Considering that it's even going against a tough conversion, right?
Compared to Italian wines. I mean, I was at a restaurant last night and I looked down the list of wines from Piedmont, and it was hard to find a wine for less than 3 figures. In other words, under $100.
Were you looking at Barolos and Barbarescos mainly?
No, they were Barberas.
Single vineyard Barberas?
Yeah.
Well, you went to a fancy place
It
last
was
night.
fancy.
Enrique.
But I mean, think about this. It's think about what a Barolo is today compared to
Barolos are hot.
compared to a Gigondas or a Chateauneuf du Pape.
Well, Chateauneuf du Papes have gotten kind of pricey too. I mean,
Barolo, a lot of them today are over $100 retail.
Yeah, I mean,
Chateauneuf du Pape, there's maybe what, Reyes, Beaucastel,
there's not a whole lot.
There's not a whole lot over $100.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those categories are two that have really shot. I mean, Barolo, for me, the undercurrent of collectors that have gone from Bordeaux to Burgundy, there's a big push to Barolo. There's a very hot undercurrent right now of collectors really becoming fascinated with the Nebbiolo grape.
But I have because I still have a retail shop in Berkeley, and I have a lot of wines from France and Italy that are under $20. And when you start talking about California wines, under $20 a bottle,
I agree with you 100%.
You know,
and then when you take into fact that the dollar is weak.
It's weak now.
I mean, when I think, listen, I know you don't...
And we have to ship the wines and pay for a reefer container to get it to Berkeley.
This is my whole point about what's going on in Portugal. I'm not sure how much you've been tasting, probably not a whole lot.
Zero.
You would be completely shocked by the quality swing in the Portuguese red wines over the last 36 to 48 months. And some of those come here that are $7, $8.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So this Bernard Chezeret?
De Charasse.
72 US dollars. Premier Cru. David Shelnick liked it. 91 and 92 points from him. Tell us a little bit about this producer.
Well, the important thing to me is that placement up on the hill, because
looking down.
Right, because in a vintage like 2006, for example, where there wasn't much acidity.
Not that much time. All right, we'll change. Don't worry. We're going to run out of time, but I wanted this. There was a big part of me who thought this would be the first ever 3-part Wine Library TV, so I have no problem with that. Mott, you can go and get it, and we'll just keep yapping. So higher elevation, looking down, in a vintage like what?
2006 or 2003. Where there was hardly any natural acidity.
Right. 3 especially was insanity,
this
wasn't it?
guy up on the 03, there was zero acidity.
Were you
unless they added it.
Were you like just devastated with what happened in 03?
Yeah. For the whites.
for the whites.
The red Burgundies, I think, there's some delicious wines.
I think so.
The Pinot Noir, ripe, but
you know what?
But not jammy. You know, not.
While I've got you here, it's a great debate amongst my friends. What do you think about 1991 as a red Burgundy vintage?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Told you. I think it is one of the most interesting.
Interesting is exactly. You've got aromas that you could say, oh my God, this reminds me of a northern Rhone, or a little more southern.
I think that's one of the most fascinating.
Me too.
And a lot of people poo-poo it, and I think because
right
it's
from the start,
because 90 was so legendary. Right. I think it's a great vintage.
I'll take both of them, 90 or 91.
Very nice. So
89 too. 88
I don't have
too.
a lot of experience with 89 or 88, but 91 I've tasted a lot of 91s. And I just think it's a great vintage. Okay, so a little bit more about this guy. Are you going to close this down right now? Or?
Finish one.
Okay, so a little bit more about this producer. So you've been working with him for about 5 or 6 vintages now, or 4 or 5 vintages now.
Maybe we should move the jets over here now.
Yeah, you're going to use some spit bucket?
My first 3 sips.
Got it, yeah. You bring that over here. Are you a Jets fan?
Wet the gullet.
Do you want to be a Jets fan?
The Jets? Is
that... That's American football.
Did
you grow up a sports fan at all? Or was it all music?
Sports in those days, no. That came later to me.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you start following?
Well, I love baseball. I watch baseball and football.
Okay, and who do you like? Are you a 49ers fan? Are you a 49ers fan? Did Montana suck you in?
When they used to win, yes.
Yeah, he sucked you right in.
It's fun to have a team that wins. Come on.
You know what's so funny? You're going to find this ironic. I actually prefer a team that loses. I'm completely about the climb.
You should move to the Bay Area.
Well, I mean, I've got my hands full with the Jets and the Knicks. So, this producer, you discovered how? Do you remember?
He came to us, yes. I have an office in Beaune. That's where my French office is. And he came by and dropped off some samples.
Mm-hmm. And you tasted through.
Right.
And you were like, this is something I want to work with.
Right from the start.
Are there things that you taste that you're like, this is close, I need to go there and see if they're willing to do it?
Oh, sure.
Is that a very big part of what you do?
Mm-hmm.
But this was right there.
Well, I had to go meet him. I had to go see what he did. You know, wineries can have a good accident and make a good wine one year and never repeat the experience.
Yeah. All right, let's switch over right now real quick.